Welcome to Down to the Wire, episode 2. I'm Joey B here. With me always is JT. I want all of you to remember to email us at down2thewire21@gmail.com. That's downtothewire21@gmail.com with any questions, comments, or concerns you may have. And you could be aired on our next show, or comment below on YouTube. So, JT, we're going to kick the show off real quick with some breaking news with the New York Mets. The captain, number 5, third baseman, David Wright, opted to have surgery to repair his herniated disc in his neck.
It's rough.
They apparently were giving him some treatment, and his neck wasn't responding. So for the second straight year, it looks like David is going to play a total of 35, 40 games. He played 38 last year after being diagnosed with spinal stenosis. And this year, he played 37, and he's going for neck surgery. It's a big blow for the Mets.
Absolutely is. The captain of the team. Face of the franchise.
So they may have some lineup shuffling to do. I have, of course, as a New York Met fan, faith in the team, faith in the organization. They have the best pitching staff in baseball with, as you saw last night, Syndergaard going into the 9th. Mets winning 11-2 with a explosive performance by the offense. Everyone performing well. Flores, their youngster Reynolds. But I'm not really too sure how they're going to last over the next 3 months. Of course, you have Walker injured. But recent news, and I'm sure you've heard this, JT, that the Rockies are opting to basically throw away Jose Reyes and pay him that $40 million guaranteed. So, what do you think? I could see him going to an offensive, injured-riddled team like the New York Mets.
I know lots of Met fans, including yourself, would be ecstatic if Jose Reyes came back to be the shortstop of the New York Mets. But I have one question, though. Can the Rockies just terminate his contract?
Well, they designated him for assignment. So they have about 3 options. They can release him right out, which would make them pay his guaranteed money for the remainder of his contract. They can place him on waivers,
okay,
which then would still have to pay the contract. The only difference between that is the team that he gets picked up by has to pay him on top of the salary.
Okay.
So he's going to be getting paid $40 million over the next few years from the Rockies and the major league minimum from whatever team he goes to. Right. But I think he's going to be released. Nobody's going to claim him off waivers. And I think he's going to get picked up by a team. He has too much ability. Forget all the abuse and everything else aside. He still has great ability at shortstop. He's still got power. He's still got speed. And he's still got cannon for an arm. So I think with David Wright being injured, I could bring back the old Jose Reyes chant that I've been doing for so many years, which would be a blessing because I feel like Jose Reyes would energize the team, the crowd, the fans, because a lot of these fans have been around and know Jose, David, all the old former Mets in the late 2000s. So my hypothesis here, and I know I'm going off a little bit here to start the show, but I would like, and I think this would be beneficial for the New York Mets, is if you move Neil Walker, if he's capable, which I think he is, to third base, have him play for David Wright. You move Asdrubal Cabrera to second, because he's capable of playing anywhere, one of the best defensive players in the league this year. Move him to second, and you, boom, put Jose Reyes right there at shortstop. That puts a full lineup of offense, speed, opposed to mixing and matching with Wilmer Flores and Matt Reynolds. That's just me. If you guys are interested, the Mets play today at 7 o'clock. Bartolo Colon, big sexy's on the mound. He's 5-3 with a 3.08 ERA. So that should always be a show. Bartolo is always fun to watch. So that's that. And I know, JT, you have a little breaking news for us today in the soccer world.
So the Euro kept going today. And first game this morning at 9 o'clock kicked off between England and Wales. The final score of that one was 2-1 England. Gareth Bale opened up the scoring in the 42nd minute with the free kick goal. That could have been a questionable save, by Joe Hart. He should have had that one. Jamie Vardy then scored for England, tying the game at the 56th minute. Then Daniel Sturridge, the man from Liverpool in extra time, in the 92nd minute, scored the game-winning goal for England, making the final score 2-1. England getting their first win of the Euro 2016. Later today, Ukraine versus Northern Ireland at 12 p.m. and Germany versus Poland at 3 p.m., the two top teams in Group C. All games will be live on ESPN. From the Copa America, the U.S. kicks off their quarterfinal play versus Ecuador. That starts at 9:30, and that can be live on Fox Sports 1.
Listen, that's some interesting soccer news, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I watch soccer, nor do I know about soccer. And in fact, me and my commentating partner here, JT, had a little interesting discussion earlier in the show. I didn't even want to put it on. So, listen, if you guys in the comments section below, let me know what you think, if you care about soccer or not, because I can't stand watching these guys flop around, lay on the friggin' ground the whole show. I can't take it, all right? So, comment below, email us, let me know what you think.
Yes, but we all know baseball is the most exciting sport in the world. Yes, we all know that.
We live in New York. The New York Mets are the most popular team in New York right now, passing the Yankees, passing your Gang Green and the Blue and the whatever, Big Blue, whatever else you call them. All right, they're the most important and the most well-rounded team in New York. And the captain, who's been around for a decade, is opting to go for surgery. Okay, so I would be interested to see, and fans, please help me out. This is going to be a little Joey B versus JT. Soccer or baseball? Tell us what you think. You want to talk about soccer? We'll put 2 segments on. I'll tell you that. If we get some votes, I'll put 2 soccer segments on the show for next week. And if we get more baseball, we're not talking about those crying, whining babies. We got a deal?
Or people, do you want us to talk about the players who get, breaking down and they're on the 30-day DL? Which one do you think would be better?
You might be referring to A-Rod or people on the Yankees, but I'm not referring to anyone. I don't know who does that on the Mets. We got a team there. We got a team of men there. So, guys,
I know someone who would not be happy with that comment.
Let us know what you think. But you got anything else for us in the Euro?
That's it for today.
That's it for today. And one of my favorite players, Wayne Rooney. I heard he played today.
He did for England. Yes, he did.
Did he score?
No, he did not.
Nah, well, he will. So just stay tuned for that one.
Okay.
We're going to go on to more New York sports. We're going to do a lot of New York sports today. If you guys are listening and you're not from New York, just let us know. We're going to change up the show every week, but we're from New York, so we're going to talk about Jets and Giants. We're going to move to football. We're going to try and cover wide variety every week. So, JT, big Jets fan, I heard you have some interesting news and some comments about Muhammad Wilkerson and his contract negotiations.
Not just Muhammad Wilkerson contract situation. There are 2 people's contract situation I want to talk about.
Ryan Fitzmagic!
And that is exactly who. Ryan Fitzpatrick. If you are listening to this right now, listen to me clearly. Come to the Jets. This is a team that is perfect for you. Last year, you, Brandon Marshall, and Eric Decker had the chemistry that it takes guys 3 years to have. Even Brandon Marshall talks about that, Eric Decker, and I believe the young talent like Jay Samaro coming up at tight end. He had an injury last year that shut him down for the year. He had shoulder surgery. I believe with him coming back, a steady offensive line, obviously losing to Brigshaw was one of the rough things. I know he's been the staple. Him and Mangold are the staple offensive linemen for this team for the last 10 years.
And Mangold's old as hell too.
He's not. Hey, he's in his young 30s. All right, that's not that crazy. Bring in Ryan Clady. Obviously, I would love to keep Ferguson, but bring in Ryan Clady, an injury-prone offensive lineman from the Broncos. I believe this offensive line could get better. It could get better. We have young pieces that could get better and could protect you. I do not believe that this team is capable of winning with the 3 quarterbacks on this roster right now. Hackenberg, Petty, Geno Smith.
Garbage.
I don't care what anybody says, but I don't care what offensive coordinator Chan Gilly says that he's light years ahead of where he was last year. He is not going to win us football games. He is not going to bring us to the playoffs. You are. Okay?
Well. First of all, I want to make a few comments. Light years ahead is what he commented about Geno Smith. That's not saying much, considering last year he was getting punched in the face by his own teammates.
That's not saying much at all.
So he's still at the bottom of the pack there.
You wouldn't see a linebacker. Never mind a starting a fourth string linebacker who probably wasn't even going to make the team anyway.
Punching your starting quarterback.
Punching Tom Brady in the face.
Absolutely
punching Aaron Rodgers. Punching Breeze in the face. You would never see that.
There's obviously some
absurd.
tension in the locker room over Geno Smith, and I'm sure the locker room is divided. But I want to make something clear.
I just want to say one more thing to you. I'm sorry to interrupt. But in the NFL, guys do not care about anything. They don't care how many commercials you are on. They do not care if you are sponsored by Nike, Adidas, Subway. We all know how that turned out for RG3. Nobody cares about that. All guys in the locker room care about is winning games. They do not care what you do off the field. They do not care. If you can get it done on the field, the players in the locker room will respect you. They will love you. They will be all over you. That's all I had to say.
And Geno Smith can't do that.
Geno Smith is not a leader in the locker room. He's not a leader on the field. He cannot get it done on the field. I would love to see Mark Sanchez come back and start over Geno Smith.
Listen, Mark Sanchez is arguably on a Super Bowl contending team, and he's on a Super Bowl championship team now in Denver. I'm not sure if he's going to start out there, but yeah, you got a interesting quarterback carousel going around in New York.
Absolutely.
But I want to ask you a question. Were you just ranting at Ryan Fitzpatrick right there?
You're
ranting at Ryan Fitzpatrick.
I was a little bit, but I want him to come back. I do. I believe he is the man that can get us to the playoffs.
So he's going to listen to this podcast right now and say, you know what? Down to the wire, Joey B and JT just convinced me to come back to the New York Jets. That's what's going to happen.
That would be fantastic if that was possible, right?
I'll keep my fingers crossed for you. So
that would be fantastic.
On to the Giants. Not much going on. Victor Cruz back on the field after about 55 years off from all these injuries he's got. I didn't realize, but he's like late 20s, early 30s.
He just turned 30.
Yeah, I didn't know that. 30. He came into the NFL later in his career, I guess.
He's an undrafted player who just
he's back on the field. They spent a whole lot of money, a whole lot of green this offseason for their defense.
Not just their whole defense, the defensive line.
Yeah, defensive line, really.
They drafted a 20-year-old from Ohio State, Eli Apple, to try to be that stable corner they've been trying to find for years.
So, I mean, they have a lot of moving pieces, a lot of things they're trying to get a win-now mode. I guess win-now mode is really what they're in when Eli's, 34, 35 years old.
Absolutely. I believe they can win another Super Bowl with Eli. I think they have 2 or 3 good more years.
They just got to get into the playoffs.
Absolutely. Yeah, whenever Eli gets to the playoffs, you know what can
lights
happen.
Out. So
it's unbelievable. I actually have one question for you. All this news and everything. There's Adrian Peterson on the news. He's saying this team is capable of winning a Super Bowl if everyone plays to their hype.
Potential, right?
Yeah, potential. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Do you believe that's true?
Talking about the Minnesota Vikings?
Yeah, the Minnesota Vikings. I'm going to switch over to the Vikings. I know we were talking about the Jets and the Giants in New York, but as a Vikings fan, I just want your opinion. Do you believe what Adrian Peterson is saying?
Listen, I believe, as a Vikings fan, when that bum Christian Ponder was quarterback, that we could have won the Super Bowl. So my opinion may be a little biased. But
okay.
No, listen, they should have been in the Super Bowl last year. All right, they beat the Seattle Seahawks.
That was a shame.
Blair Walsh missed a kick. It happens. It's cold, freezing cold weather.
Absolutely.
So that wasn't the team's fault. They held the Seattle to a touchdown, and we're in the game, and they should have won, really. So they didn't lose any pieces. They lost nobody, and the only thing they did was get better. Teddy Bridgewater getting better, Cordell Patterson getting better, and Adrian didn't lose a step. He's looking like all day, the usual all day in OTAs. So I think he's going to be a leading rusher. I think Teddy Bridgewater may be able to throw the ball more than 10 yards down the field this year. We got rid of Mike Wallace's contract, which was enormous for the minimal impact he did. So, yeah, I think that Adrian Peterson is not far off. They can win the Super Bowl.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but Mike Wallace came in expecting to be that number 1 receiver. Am I correct?
Of course. We signed him. We traded for him to be the number 1 receiver. And it ended up being Stephon Diggs, and him and Teddy Bridgewater got a good connection there, good chemistry.
It's a fantasy steal right there last year.
That was a fantasy steal. That was. And you know what? Mike Wallace is really a one-dimensional player, much like Deshaun Jackson. He's Torrey Smith. It's just down the field speed, and the Vikings offense, much like most offenses are, but the Vikings are a little different. They're mainly a run-first offense, which isn't really commonplace these days.
Absolutely.
And they don't throw the ball down the field too often, even with Norv Turner calling the shots, which Mike Wallace is so basically useless at that point. So they're going to take some shots down the field this year, I think, open up, give AP some help, 31 years old.
I was actually curious when the Vikings hired Norv Turner, because Norv Turner came from a team from the Chargers, and the head coach of the Chargers, with Phillip Rivers. Right. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Phillip Rivers and Teddy Bridgewater do not play similar style quarterback.
Two totally different players.
So I'm just curious how that was going to play out.
They know that no matter who comes in at offensive coordinator, AP is going to do AP. The defense, they got Mike Zimmer there, so their defensive coordinator is basically useless. Mike Zimmer's calling the shots there on defense.
That's how I felt with Rex Ryan.
Right. So their defense is set. Their running back is set. They needed someone to come in and guide Teddy Bridgewater, help Teddy Bridgewater, improve. First round pick from a few years ago. So, Norv Turner, they figured he could, I guess, help. Which he has been. He's playing well, Teddy Bridgewater.
Absolutely, yeah, he absolutely has. Young quarterback.
Brought him to the playoffs at 24 years old or whatever he is.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, the Vikings should be fun to watch this year if you guys tune in, watch Adrian Peterson win consecutive rushing titles.
Do you believe Teddy Bridgewater is the man that could lead to the Vikings to the Super Bowl?
You know what? He's not an Andrew Luck. He's not a Drew Brees. He hasn't got a cannon. He's not Cam Newton with unbelievable speed and athleticism and height and all that, but I've seen a lot worse quarterbacks win Super Bowl rings. So, if the team's built around him well, he can do it. So basically we covered some New York Mets and David. Best wishes to you and the surgery you're having today. The Euro, nobody cares. And then Jets and Giants, it's early in OTAs, so I'm sure there'll be a lot of breaking news later that we're going to cover. And we have an interesting segment here today. It's going to be Joey B and JT. It's called Face Off. Rangers versus Islanders. This is always a heated topic, so I'm going to try and restrain myself from using foul language, throwing things.
I would like to say one thing, too. I'm not going to sit here for the next 10 minutes and argue which team is better, because even Island fans can admit Rangers are obviously a better organization. I'm not going to sit here for 10 minutes and arguing that.
Right, of course.
So whatever you would like to talk about, I would be open to it.
All right, well, it's obviously early off-season for the NHL.
Absolutely.
And a lot of talk is going around about teams, what they're going to do next year. And this is an interesting time to talk about it because you have cap space problems, you have players might be moving, you have a lot of things going on. And I think, honestly, right now, the Islanders, although with, I believe, Franz Nielsen not coming back, Oposo won't come back, signing Casey Cizikas to a monster deal for a fourth-line center. They're, with the lack of talent they have, are more stable, I believe, than the Rangers right now. Because Rangers are in win-now mode, and they don't have a win-now roster. Mm-hmm. So, I'm interested to see what they're going to do this offseason with clearing some cap space, re-signing players like Kreider, Hayes, Yandel. Well, Yandel, I think, is gone.
You think he's gone?
We don't have the cap space to pay him $5-6 million or whatever he's gonna want. Because he's in his prime and he's a phenomenal player, and he's gonna go someplace. He has no loyalty to the Rangers organization. You know, he was here for 2 years. McDonough took a lower deal, being the captain. Yandle won't do that. So he's gone. But they're into some serious cap space problems, and I think that if they want to win now, they are going to have to move some stud players, some staples in the New York Rangers team, like Dan Girardi, Rick Nash.
I know a lot of Ranger fans will like that one.
Yeah, a lot of us were really on the hype train for Rick Nash coming from Columbus, and really hasn't produced. He had one good 40-goal season, which, of course, I made sure everyone was well aware of that, but that's about it. He didn't really have a lot of assists that year either. He's really just a one-dimensional player. He's plays solid, but even in the playoffs, he doesn't show up.
Mm-hmm. So
if that's happening this offseason, I'll be pretty excited about it, because that's what they got to do to move on, from getting destroyed round one by the Penguins, who ultimately ended up winning the Stanley Cup. So, you Islander fans and JT all offseason, thought he was going to be a tough guy. Rangers got knocked out the first round. We made it to the second round, first time in 68 years. Yeah, congrats, all right? But we lost to the Stanley Cup champions, who they breezed through the playoffs. The Pittsburgh Penguins breezed through the playoffs. Hands down. So, yes, the Islanders may have won, but and went a little farther than the Rangers this year. First time in a very long time. But you guys beat the 44-year-old Jaromir Jagr and the 37-year-old Roberto Luongo, and we had to go up against the Stanley Cup champions. So I don't want to hear that from you. How do you feel the Islanders are looking right now?
I'm confident. We have a lot of young players in the organization, like Michael Lacolle, Anthony Beauvillier, Matthew Barzal. I'm really curious to see come training camp and see if they're going to be in the starting lineup opening night. That's the big question. It depends what we do in this offseason. If we keep guys like Franz and Oposo, most likely not, but we let them go, then we could see one or two of those guys come up. I'm going to be an outrage if number 6, Ryan Pollock, is not in the opening night lineup. I'm going to be an absolute outrage. That he is 22 years old, and he played like an absolute stud in the end of the regular season and in the playoffs. This man is the future of our defense, and I cannot wait to see him.
He played in the playoffs?
He absolutely did.
If he played in the playoffs, it seems most likely he'll probably start the year.
Absolutely.
You're not going to trust a 22-year-old in the playoffs and not start him the next regular season.
Absolutely. I know I'm not trying to sound like a video game right now, but we need to sign Steven Stamkos. You look at the teams that looking at the team that just won the Stanley, the Pittsburgh Penguins. Look at the trend they followed. The first two lines, Malkin and Crosby. We need to get that same similar style with Tavares and Stamkos as the first two line centers. We need to follow that similar style.
All right. Listen, the Steven Stamkos hype is pretty big right now, but you have to understand the Islanders have to re-sign Tavares in a year or two. They're gonna sign him to a monster contract. I don't know if you're delusional, but he's not gonna take a cut for the New York Islanders. He'll bounce before he takes a cut for the New York Islanders organization. He's been there for 5 years now.
Longer,
7 years now. They haven't put a lick of offense around this man. They haven't put anybody in net that can produce. They haven't put a defense behind him. They're starting to now with Leddy and Boychuk signings. But then again, those are monster deals. You have those two monster deals. You're following the same trend that the New York Rangers did a few years ago, signing these stud defensemen. And in a few years, when they're old and they're getting beat up and worn out, you're going to be where we are with nothing. Two washed up men like Mark Stahl and Dan Girardi. Beat up, worn down, and overpaid. And you want... First of all, I don't know how the Pittsburgh Penguins are under the salary cap. I don't understand how they're under the salary cap. I would really love someone to break it down for me how they meet the salary cap. And I don't know the contract or the trade deal, and they have Phil Kessel.
Yes, and Letang and Fleury.
Right, but they had this team, right, and they must have been close to the salary cap. and then you trade Phil Kessel. They must have, and someone help me out if they don't know, because I don't know, and JT doesn't know. Nobody knows. I don't think the Penguins know, okay? How they don't go over the salary cap. Toronto must have took a big portion of Kessel's deal, maybe? I don't know. All I know is that they have 6, 7, 8 people getting paid $5 million or more, and they're solid. And they're trading for Hagelin, they're trading for Kessel, they're paying Crosby, who's probably the highest paid player in the league. You're paying for Malkin, Letang, Fleury, who doesn't even play. How do you afford this? And then you come to the Rangers, and Lundqvist is getting paid way too much. We got no money. What? He's the best goaltender in the league. You pay someone like that. How do we have no money?
And goalie's one of the position that's worth it. It's like quarterback.
Right.
So you gotta pay.
But you look at the playoffs. It was game 3. That's a very odd stat. But all the starting goalies in the final 4 got paid less combined total than Henrik Lundqvist. Jones, Murray, that backup for Ben Bishop, whatever his name is.
Vasilevsky.
Yeah, and I don't remember the other guy. Point
Murray?
is that all 4 goalies were paid less than Henrik Lundqvist. And it's baffling to me. So the Islanders, if they could get Stamkos, would be in phenomenal shape. But it's going to be interesting to see.
Hey, with new ownership and stupid Charles Wayne getting out of here, who knows?
Right. So we're getting cut short by our technical producer here. Apparently, we got to end the show. So I guess we're going to end it for today. We're going to talk more about Islanders, Rangers, Jets, Giants, Mets, Yankees. We'll talk about everything. We'll talk about everybody. We're going to go outside in New York next week. So stay tuned. Stick around. Thank you for tuning in to Down to the Wire with Joey B and JT. We'll see you next week. Don't forget to email or comment below.